screen. All right, so here we are. How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the final virtual workshop, our wrap-up. And this is kind of our last contact point with you as you finish completing the assignments in Canvas, if you still have to do work there. Today we're going to cover a few different things very quickly. We'll do one last look at the bike rack and take a look at some course feedback. We'll also discuss the project implementation stipends. And Molly's going to lead us through a reflection activity to kind of collect all of our thoughts about what we've learned during this course and to share those out. So first let's do the bike rack. Notice this picture is different. It's not a huge mess at a bike rack, but I feel like at this point we should be ready to move. We should be ready to start on our projects in sustainability with students. And so Jordan and Andrew are going to lead us through kind of a look at the bike rack today.
Yeah, so howdy everyone. I hope everyone is doing well. So for the first thing on the bike rack, it is in regards to the project. And Wendy asked if there's a specific template that needs to be used for submitting the project stipend. And there's not, so you can use whatever format you prefer because it's for your use only. Also, no receipts have to be submitted, so you don't have to worry about that. And then when you complete your project, and you have until, as of now, May 15th, the application process will be started then once it's completed. And we'll talk more about this during the next few slides. And then Rob asked for a friend, which, yeah, okay. He asked what counts as a project in order to receive funding, and we have a list of examples of, or not so much a list, but rather a website of examples of projects that teachers have completed in the past. And you can either reach out to Rob or Molly for that. And I'm sure someone will send it into the chat or something like that in a second. Next, our friend Lindsay, who is with us, started a online resource document that she compiled throughout her time in the academy this summer, and I think someone also is about to put it in the chat, but we just want to say thank you, Lindsay, for doing that. We really appreciate it. And it has a lot of really good information on it, so you guys should check it out. Next, Rob also put the slide deck in the bike rack, so if you want that, it's there. And then finally, Wendy asked the origin of the agricultural crop. I think it's a map in the Canvas. And she just wanted to know how current the map is. I don't know the answer to that, so maybe Rob or Molly could jump in.
The map of projects?
The origin of agricultural crop.
Oh, I don't know the answer to that.
Wendy, can you tell us where you found that? I'm not sure I know what specifically you're talking about.
I was going through the workbook and I clicked on a link and it took me to that website, and it shows a map of the whole world with all the crops. And so I was just curious. The United States looks terrible on the map.
Oh, so I should know what you're talking about. Sorry, what page is that on? My bad.
I was doing yesterday's work, so someplace from day 9.
Okay. I'll take a look at that and make sure that I answer that for you, but I'm not sure. And right now, since I don't have the context, I can't remember why I put it in there, but that would be me. I should know that answer, but I don't right now. But I will find out for you.
And then in the chat, Amy asked if we are working on projects together, do we all need to submit individual templates or can we submit one?
Right. So if you're working on projects together, each teacher who's gone through the academy and has contributed to the project has to submit a separate application. And this is because as a grant-funded program, we have to justify the payout of stipends to each individual. So having those applications completed is a requirement for us to be able to pay that out. Yeah, so unfortunately, as of right now, each individual teacher needs to submit their own application.
Yeah. And then Lindsay just said, as everyone can see, she set the share setting with anyone with the link, but if you can't access it, she will answer that for you and fix it. So thanks again, Lindsay. We really appreciate it.
And I'll jump, yeah, thanks. I can jump in. One more thing with the bike rack, as we've gone through these past 2 weeks, this has been a new experience for us as well, doing this virtually. So we would really appreciate any feedback that you might have. And so on the bike rack, there are 2 specific questions that we're really interested in. The first having to do with Canvas, so how we might be able to make this a little bit more user-friendly or streamlined, features that would help you out. And then the second question about any other areas of sustainability content that you would have appreciated and might have helped your experience. So we welcome your feedback, and please put things in there that you think might be helpful or that you'd like to share. So thanks in advance for any comments you might give. All right.
Thanks, guys. So we're going to take just a couple minutes to talk about the project implementation stipends. So once you've completed all the elements of the Canvas course, we'll begin the process of payout for stipends for participating in the course. And that generally takes about 4 to 6 weeks, although that may take us a little bit longer now because due to COVID, most of our staff is working from home. This process is largely digital, so hopefully it will be, similar to what it has been in past years where we've been on campus in person, but just maybe keep that in mind as we are processing stipends. And you have until the 3rd of July to complete all of those assignments. So we kind of extended the course deadlines for you until then to finish the elements of the Canvas course. But after you've completed the course, we have an additional stipend that's available to any of the teachers who attended our workshop, who then go on to complete a sustainability project with their school or community. And this is a one-time stipend. We have 2 types of project stipends available that have different payout amounts depending on the scope and the duration and the number of participants involved. The deadline for completion of both of those is May 15th, 2021. And you'll receive an email notification probably in as early as September with repeating the instructions for completion of the project implementation stipend. So we'll send kind of reminders throughout the school year to you so that you don't forget that you have this opportunity to get another stipend. And just to take a look at those each. The first is for a smaller scope project, so we're calling this a classroom sustainability project. And that stipend is for $300 per academy teacher. So this can again be a project that you implement yourself or with your partner. If you and your partner both complete this project and submit for this application, you'll each get $300. And the scope here is to really just introduce students, give students a cursory introduction to sustainability science, and allow them some time to practice evaluating and solving problems. And so the format for this is usually like a class lesson plan or activity. This can be something that you invent yourself, or it could be something that you get from another source that looks at, you know, food systems, water systems, waste, whatever it is that you want. We think the duration of this should be 2 to 5 class periods, and it should really kind of involve not just introducing content or information to students, but giving them an opportunity to practice taking measurements and applying those concepts in the real world and solving particular problems that the class or your school community face. And so that could be something like setting up an in-class composting worm bin so that classroom food waste is going into that composting, or having students start up a small garden for the class and taking measurements about how things are growing in that garden. So the participants for this project can be as few as 1 academy teacher, or it can be you and your partner, but it should include at least 30 students. And so this can take place in class, it can be an after-school club or after-school activity, whatever works for you in terms of your capacity to work with students. The other project we're calling a school, district, or community stipend sustainability project, and that will pay out $500 per academy teacher, and again, paid upon completion. And the idea here is to engage students in a sustained effort to address some significant sustainability problem faced by your school or community. And this could include something like evaluating the school cafeteria for sustainability and making changes trying to solve school cafeteria food waste or plastic waste in the cafeteria. The duration of these projects should be at least 1 quarter, 1 academic quarter, and the participants should include at least 1 academy teacher, at least 90 students, and at least 3 additional teachers, staff, or community volunteers. So we're looking like at a more robust effort to address a significant problem in your school or community over the course, over a longer period of time than just a couple of class sections.
Really quickly.
Go for it.
I guess it goes into this. Kristen Smith said, what if we don't have 30 students in our class?
That's a good question, Kristen, and we hadn't anticipated an answer to that. So as you complete your project, just loop Molly and me in if it's a matter of addressing your class and your class size does not include 30 students. We don't want to be sticklers about this, but we do want to have some kind of target for teachers to work toward that's clear. So that's why we assigned the number of 30 students. But just let me know, let us know what that's looking like for you. That, you know, if you have 20 or 25 students, that's acceptable for the scope of this project. We'd be fine with that. One of the reasons that we set the 30 student target is in part because we have deliverables through our grant to reach a certain number of students every year. And so by saying like that you should be shooting toward 30 students, it kind of helps us meet that deliverable target. But we don't worry about that too much because most teachers will be working with upwards of, you know, 50, 60, 100 students, depending on the school. There is another question from Janae Hunt. Can the other 3 teachers be part of this project? Absolutely. You can have any teacher who has gone through the Sustainability Teachers Academy this summer can participate with you on a project. We've already heard from teachers in the Salt Lake City school district who are interested in doing like a district-wide project, and that's amazing. So obviously we want to have all of the teachers from SLC working on a project together. So yes. And then maybe involve a buddy in the classroom.
I was just going to say really quickly that if you work together on a project, each of you, I believe, Robin, correct me if I'm wrong, each of you are still eligible for the stipend.
That is correct. Yeah. So any of the teachers who have gone through the academy, who have participated in your project, can receive that stipend. The key for us, though, is that they have to have attended the academy because, again, as a grant-funded program, the grant mandates that we are able to give those stipends only to teachers who have come through our academy trainings.
Mm-hmm.
All right, any other questions before we move to the next activity?
Yes, and share the workload, which is huge.
Yeah, again, as Molly has tried to point out in the project development workbook, this is really, successful projects aren't just one teacher like pushing the whole thing forward. It's really a collaborative community effort that makes a huge difference in its longevity and in its ability to affect meaningful change. All right, so next, Molly's going to lead us in a short reflection.
Yes, indeed I am. But really quickly, I wanted to answer the bike rack question because I figured it out. It was last updated, that map was last updated May 2016. And I see what you're talking about with the United States. The history of food is fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating. And I just wanted to point out that like there are roughly like 300,000 possible edible plant species. And of that, us as all humans eat about 200 of those species, but they estimate something like 12 to 15 species of plant make up the majority of all of our diets, with 3 crops, that's corn, rice, and wheat, accounting for more than half of the calories and proteins that we derive from plants. So we have this massive thing, but we're only really eating this small amount, and there's so many interesting things that go into that, like imperialism, capitalism, colonialism. It's very rich for, you know, discussion in your classrooms.
Can I share one detail about that, Molly, that is fascinating?
Is it going to be about collard greens?
No.
Oh, okay.
It's going to be about potatoes. The collard greens story is is equally cool. We worked with a collard greens researcher from Emory and Henry College, and that story is fascinating. But all of us eat like 3 species of potato, right? There's like 3 varieties of potato, but potatoes are Peruvian and Andean, and the native people in those areas have thousands of different species and varieties of edible potatoes that they cultivate. And the reason that we have such a small number of them is that those potatoes were brought to Europe by the conquistadors and other explorers in South America. And so from the thousands of varieties, they chose a small subset of maybe hundreds of potatoes. And all of those potatoes were cultivated initially in one island with very specific ecological characteristics that rooted out all but about 5 species of potato. And then from that 5, only 2 or 3 gained popularity in places like Ireland, and et cetera. So that's how we get from this huge variety of edible fruit, foods to a small number of plants that we eat. That's one story anyway.
Yeah, and kind of like, so one of the things that the collard green expert at Davis is looking at is the biodiversity of collard greens and how important it is in our food system, because when you don't have biodiversity in the food system, you see things like the potato famine in Ireland. So interesting, everything is all connected. Good, okay. So now we'll move along to our reflection. So I'm gonna have you take about 30 seconds to 1 minute and just think to yourself, like thinking back 2 weeks ago, 2 Sundays ago, you're getting ready, you're about to come to us. I used to think, what did you used to think about sustainability, working together, virtual workshops, the Sustainability Teachers Academy team? I don't know, but what did you used to think? And then has it changed, and what do you think now? And if you'll prepare those by typing them into the chat as like, I used to think, or you don't have to say that, but like, the thing you used to think, and then ... now I think this thing. Yes, Jordan. Did you have a question? I saw you raise your hand. Oh yeah, and you can't hit enter.
Button. It's right next to the chat.
Oh, no worries. Okay, yeah. Also, fun feature about the fact, if you hit enter to go to the next line, it'll just send it. Yeah, I've made that mistake multiple times. So if you'll say, I used to think, and then so for example, I used to think all online workshops were boring. Now I think they're really fun if you're a facilitator. So I'll give you a couple minutes to do that and just share it with us on the chat, and we can read a couple of them out. Or if you'd prefer to kind of talk to us, just go ahead and you can either raise your hand or just shout out some answers. Oh, Crystal says, I used to think sustainability was only about preserving resources. Now I know that it includes many other aspects. That's cool. That's great, Crystal.
Yeah, and on the same, along the same lines, Eric said, now I understand more about the societal aspects of sustainability, which, yes, that is great.
Nice. Lindsay, great one. I used to think sustainability only dealt with human impact on the planet. I have a feeling that now you think that it's more than that. Yeah, we won't read them all, but I'm going to save the chat so that I can look over them and feel inspired for years to come.
Yes, I love that one, Donna.
And let's see here. Katie says, I used to think that a school-wide sustainability project was overwhelming, but now I think it's very doable. That's awesome. Thanks, Jordan. Excellent. Probably helps that you live with your sustainability buddy, but you know. Oh yeah, so funny, Wendy. Like we, hey Zoe, it's okay. Yeah. So yeah, we can't tell you how many times people have come to our workshops with a project already prepared, and they're like, we're just going to do gardening, or we're just going to do recycling. That's a crazy one. Rob has a whole rant about recycling. But then after, go ahead, Rob.
It's not that it's bad. It is great. You should recycle, but not every recycling program does what you think it does. So for example, in Phoenix 5 years ago, if stuff was put in the recycling, it got processed, it got sorted, it got sent to a bunch of innovative businesses that turned that into useful items. And now we don't know what happens to it, but a large amount of it probably goes to landfill. So you're throwing stuff in your recycling bin and it's just going to landfill. Learn about your recycling program.
Yeah, one of the things that it's like a reframing of recycling. The 90s really didn't do us any good with the reduce, reuse, recycle situation because we focused on this last thing. Those were meant to be in order, right? But recycling became this way of overlooking the problem in our system, which is rampant consumption. And so recycling, to me, when you have a problem with your recycling program, it's that the recycling was supposed to be a solution to a waste problem that needs to be revamped or relooked at. So
yeah, it's unfortunately oftentimes a band-aid to the real problems. So, but it's also an essential part of waste management. We just have to do it better than we do it now.
So I want to call out Darling too. She says, I used to think that people who did sustainability work were solely nerds. Not untrue. Yeah. But I learned so much from our facilitators, thanks. And the CNC requires much more than just scientific knowledge. And y'all can look at that one if you'd like. But that's very true, you know, and I think that that's one of the cool things about sustainability over, for example, environmental science, is that it incorporates many ways of knowing, understanding different perspectives, and being able to collaborate and work together for a better tomorrow.
One great example of this, I feel the same way. Like I have a background in science, and kind of came to this this job translating sustainability science for teachers from the perspective that I'm just gonna focus on the cool science that people need to know. And every year I've learned more and more that this is really a social enterprise. It's an activity that we all do together. But this past year was kind of the most jarring that I've ever felt, because we worked with a postdoc named Carlos Casanova, who's brilliant and just an amazing, amazing person. And he specializes in what's called youth participatory action research, which is helping to guide students in expressing and investigating their schools, their communities through a historical, critical race lens. And what that meant is that we got a bunch of kids together to look at cafeteria systems, and they just blew me away. They don't have the same scientific knowledge that researchers at the School of Sustainability have, but these kids were just so insightful about the problems that are faced, by cafeteria systems and about how the cafeteria is used. And just thinking about that experience to me makes me realize how much more harder we need to work to bring everybody into this effort, not just scientists and educators, but community members, children, their parents. There's so much that people have to contribute, and we really need to do a good job of helping to bring that in.
Yeah, it was really cool doing the YPAR with the students, because one of the things one of their major observations, which kind of hit a nerve with me, was that they had noticed that students in the cafeteria feel really isolated and lonely, and that was one of the things that they wanted to explore. So I'm going to call out one more, and then I'll let Rob wrap this up. But I saw that Jen said that sustainability, we used to think it was environmental. I mean, honestly, that's how I got here. I was an environmentalist. I still am, but I used to be too. And she says now she realizes that it focuses on relationships and how to maintain them and provide equal and safe opportunities for everyone. And I think that's really well said. All right, Rob, take it away.
All right, so I think we're done. What's next? Well, just complete any outstanding items in your Canvas course and your project workbook, and begin to think about how you're going to get back to the school swing of things and how you're going to integrate sustainability with your students and implement one of those projects. I can't stress enough, how anything that you come up with is going to be acceptable to us, because as we've said before, we have sustainability knowledge, but we don't really know your communities. You're the expert of your community's needs. You're the expert of what your students and your parents and your school needs. And we're interested in what you come up with and how it turns out. So please know that anything that you do is gonna make us very happy. And if you have any questions or need help, we're here to support you. And that goes from small things like, where do I submit my application, or do you have any suggestions for lesson plans that deal with water or food or whatever, all the way up to how can you support me in my efforts to include district decision makers in the process of implementing sustainability policy. We want to support you in as many different ways as we can, and we have a lot of capacity to do this, particularly now that we've mastered the virtual online meeting, but especially because we really just want to help you make the most out of the resources that we've provided, and really grapple with these questions with your communities and with your students. And that is it. And so with that, we will end. And again, I just want to say thank you guys so much for joining us over this 2-week pilot course. We've never done this before. You've given us so much to think about and a lot of feedback that's helpful for future iterations. And we're going to be back. We're going to be back with more and bigger and better online resources for teachers. And we're super excited to start this school year with you, developing projects to engage students in sustainability. And that's it. That's all I have to say. Thank you guys so much. Oh, wait, I do have one more thing to say. Thank you to all of the ASU team. This has been a really challenging endeavor to translate from in-person to online work. And, this team has been phenomenal in helping us to get this course up and running. So again, thanks to Janine, Andrew, Molly, Jordan. It's been awesome and really great to work with you guys. All right, and with that, I think we're done.
And thanks to
everybody.
Rob, too, for making this happen. I can't tell you how many times I was like, Rob, we could do all these things. And Rob was like, yes, but we don't have that much time.
But that's the way we
So
always work. That's what
keeping us
always
on
happens.
track.
Molly's like
Rob.
pushing us forward, and I'm like, but we need to do it in this way, you know? So yeah, this is our working. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but Molly and I have a lot of complementary strengths that if any one of us were ever isolated, we would just flounder and be unable to do things.
Yes, we call it a codependent working relationship.
All right.
But anyway, so thanks, everyone.
Yeah. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Good luck to y'all.
Stay in touch.
Great work.